Man, Microsoft continues to outwit, outsmart, and outlast PlayStation. Now, I don't want to make it sound like PlayStation's totally, screwed or finished here. In some aspects, I think they haven't done as well as they could have and preparing for the future. But I also think, they'll probably be fine. I'm of the thought that PlayStation was A-okay before Call of Duty was a thing. Nintendo continues to be just fine despite not really having support from Activision or EA, and PlayStation will be fine even if they lost Call of Duty, which they're not going to. But this isn't 15 years ago. This isn't that glorious run between 2007 and 2011 where Call of Duty was absolutely just dominating and 3 million people were on it on launch on Xbox 360. This isn't that time. But this bit of news basically PlayStation kind of shoots themselves in the foot with their own words, because what they're talking about just doesn't make any sense. The Chewbacca defense doesn't work in this case. I'm sorry, but it doesn't. Hey everybody, I'm Crap Gamer. This is Crap Gamer Reviews, back with another video. Please leave a like on this video. It helps to be seen, and I'm looking to get 100 likes on each of these videos. It is a very small goal, but a goal I'm trying to reach nonetheless, so I can actually accomplish that if you guys help me out. With that being said, yeah, listen, we know that there's so much going on right now in this world of competition between what Microsoft is doing, what Sony's doing. Obviously, Microsoft wants to bolster Game Pass. On Sony's side, they're talking about how, a service that puts games day and date can't be done. Microsoft has pretty much proven them wrong. Sony has reached out to regulators about this Activision deal, saying they can't compete. Although there's basically if there's any precedent showing that a company can compete without Call of Duty, it's already happened. Nintendo doesn't have Call of Duty. Call of Duty wasn't a thing for many, many years, and PlayStation was still, the console leader. They're the console leader right now. Not sure they have the right to dictate what Microsoft can and can't do, or what they should or shouldn't do. So with that being said, the other part of this, which I found to be increasingly funny, is that they're not only trying to say Microsoft shouldn't own Call of Duty because if it goes exclusive, it would ruin PlayStation or would make people choose Xbox over PlayStation. They're also saying Microsoft should not be allowed, if they do own Call of Duty, to have any kind of exclusive content, because that would give them an unfair advantage over PlayStation and people would pick Xbox. In addition to, which is ironic as hell, considering Sony clearly buys content to do the exact purpose for which they're complaining about for PlayStation. So I don't think they realize how hypocritical they come across, but this part is equally funny to me, because PlayStation claims if they release Call of Duty and Game Pass, they don't have any way to compete. Microsoft, boom bada boom, reportedly did offer Game Pass to PlayStation. So smack dam right there in the middle, Microsoft has precedent and say, hey, you know what? If you were that worried about it, you could have accepted it. Now, if you're a PlayStation fanboy, you're going, why would they accept that? It's the company. Listen, yes, it's competition, but it's at the end of the day just a service that could be offered on PlayStation. It doesn't mean that everybody on PlayStation would use it, or that it would overtake PlayStation Plus or whatever. Like, PlayStation offers, EA Play, right? Does that mean that EA, it's not really a competition? If anything, it could draw people to PlayStation, and, people that maybe like Xbox would still be, or, like PlayStation, but maybe bought an Xbox for Game Pass. Now you can play Game Pass on PlayStation, right? So, boom. It could actually help them tremendously, but they've turned it down. Microsoft shares news following that Sony has chosen to block the release of Game Pass subscription on PlayStation platforms. Microsoft has shared that Sony has chosen to block the release of Game Pass on PlayStation platforms. Now, the ongoing acquisition of Activision Blizzard has led to a conflict between the two companies. As PlayStation argues that Call of Duty on Xbox Game Pass would prove anti-competitive, Microsoft, in response, offered through the United Kingdom's Competition and Markets Authority, said that there's been more to the situation than may seem. As shared by Tom Warren on Twitter, Microsoft is responding to PlayStation's argument that an acquisition of Call of Duty franchise would tip subscription services in Xbox's favors. In other words, offering Call of Duty games through Game Pass and not other subscription service would be anti-consumer, and that would be irreparably harm Sony's own efforts. Microsoft has several arguments against Sony's point, many revolving around Sony's own approach to gaming subscription services. To start, Microsoft implies that it tried to offer Xbox Game Pass on PlayStation. This would assumedly make it clear that it is not trying to make Call of Duty exclusive to any own one hardware through its own subscription purchase. If Sony is saying the exclusivity would harm its own consoles, Microsoft is saying that it's willing to put Game Pass on them and PlayStation gamers could access Call of Duty that way. However, Sony blocked Game Pass on PlayStation. Microsoft also argues that Sony is exaggerating its own investment in game subscription. It says that Sony's own priority, which has proven successful given its leadership in the market, has been to protect its revenues from sales of newly released games. Sony could, says Microsoft, increase the competitiveness of its PlayStation Plus subscription service by offering a variety of games it doesn't currently have. It chooses not to, showing Sony's prior lack of interest in competing in this market. While Microsoft is trying to undercut Sony's argument from multiple angles, there's also a tone to it that really cuts to the heart of the issue. The issue is that Sony's priority here isn't fairness or whether Microsoft is becoming anti-competitive. It's that Sony thinks slowing down or preventing this acquisition is good for PlayStation, and it's unclear at this point whether or not they'll have any consequences on Microsoft. The Activision Blizzard acquisition is being looked at closely in the EU and UK, but that should be expected for any almost $70 billion acquisition. Even without further hurdles in its way, Microsoft acquisition will likely be wrapped up a little bit later than they would have liked, but it's still going to happen to go through. So really, I'm glad that this site, which I'm going to link this in the description, I'm glad that they were actually able to go out there and, kind of speak the facts of the matter, which is exactly that. Sony is trying to say, oh no, we couldn't compete. Sony chooses not to compete in the services department. They choose not to put their games day one on there. They could have, and I'm sure Microsoft would be open if there was enough money paid to put Activision games in a Sony subscription service. I mean, they'd have to pay the fee. They're not going to do it for free. But yeah, it's definitely something that could happen. And it's just absolutely asinine that Sony's trying to play this victim role, and as far as we can all tell, it's just absolutely insane that Sony kind of has gone this route. I don't understand it personally, but at the end of the day, Sony does a lot of things that seem to be a little bit hypocritical, as well as just plain out doesn't make any sense. So yeah, like I said, personally, I don't care if Microsoft makes the games exclusive. Honestly, I don't. I hope that they stay on PlayStation. I personally just really want the games to be on Game Pass. I think that's what a lot of people want. That's going to open them up. Listen, Game Pass is about to be on Meta. Game Pass is about to be, which is the Facebook thing. Game Pass is going to be on Google stuff. Like, listen, it's not a thing about exclusivity per se. It's just offering it where it's available. And Microsoft has shown that they've made this offer to Sony multiple times. What do you guys think about this? Rack 'em up, fact 'em up, Crap Gamer 'em up. Thanks for watching. Crap Gamer out.